Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. Okay, so a crazy, weekend and going into the weekend from Friday on for many reasons. If you haven't seen my episode on, I think it was Saturday, make sure you check that one out. Regardless, a lot of really exciting things came out over the weekend as well, including many spoilers from Foundation, so let's jump into them. Starting off with Crystal Barricade, a 0/4 wall with Defender that costs 2 mana. I was going to say 4, I don't know why. 2 mana. You have Hexproof, prevent all non-combat damage to be dealt to other creatures you control. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, it is a really cool card. It's pretty situational on what kinds of decks might want it. Like, Ricksmithy's decks are like, sure, why not? Yeah, okay, Blasphemous Act does not affect me. Great. That's fantastic. Also, decks that want to use and abuse, again, things like Blasphemous Act to, like, protect their own team from that as well, to make them one-sided board wipes can be great. The U of Hexproof is nice. How important is that in Commander? Really depends on the types of decks you're playing against, typically. All right, moving on. We got Seer Slicer Goblin, a 2/1 Goblin Warrior for 2 mana in red. Raid at the beginning of your end step, you attack this turn, create a 1/1 red Goblin creature token. This is very good. A low to the ground Goblin. Again, Goblin is a very relevant creature type. I guess Warrior is as well. But also, again, it's the beginning of your end step as long as you attacked. Doesn't have to be with this. Again, if it was with this would be much worse. Again, this would have to stay in play. You'd have to stick around. This does not have to be the creature that does that. You can attack with literally anything, including a Goblin that you made with this, and then all of a sudden, you make another one. Make another one. Make another one. It reminds me kind of that, what's the Lieutenant Thopter Maker one? Basically, incredibly low to the ground creature. Again, just 2 mana. Relevant creature type, and it makes a token every single one of your turns, basically guaranteed for the decks that want to utilize it. Obviously, aggressive decks, token strategies, as well as, of course, Goblin decks, of course, will want to consider this one. Next up, Fey Bloom Trick, an instant for 3 mana in blue. Create 2 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying. When you do, tap target creature opponent controls. This is, okay. Basically, like for many, many years, right, the cost of making creature tokens is like, okay, 1 mana, you get 1. 2 mana, sorcery speed, you'll get 2. Yeah, usually not instant speed unless it's like a very specific thing where it's like you get 3 you have to have like certain requirements maybe. This one is you make 2 flyers, which is relevant, again, having that evasion or, again, blockers out of nowhere, but also giving you that like additional like tap something down for a deck that maybe cares about tapping things down or maybe cares about instant speed tokens. Sure. Outside of that, this is pretty specific. Moving on. Kaido, Cunning Infiltrator. That's right, Kaido is back. A 3 starting loyalty Planeswalker. Kaido for 3 mana in blue. Whenever a creature you control deals counter to a player, put a loyalty counter on Kaido. +1 up to 1 creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Draw a card and discard a card. -2, create a 2/1 blue ninja creature token. -9, you get an emblem with whenever a player casts a spell, you create a 2/1 blue ninja creature token. Okay. So that last one is kind of, it's not like I win the game right away, but like if the game keeps going on, you're probably going to win because whenever anyone's casting any spell, including you, your opponents, anyone, anything, you get free 2/1s. Cool. There you go. So, this one isn't really all that hard to actually ultimate because you can just throw this down, and if you've got like a low to the ground evasive deck, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I just had 7 creatures hit. Boom, there you go. 6 creatures even hitting, and then you being like, okay, yeah, I'll drop that down. So in a format like Commander, could definitely see this one seeing play. Of course, Planeswalker strategies could utilize it as well if you've got a good amount of other, like, hey, Elspeth type ones that make a bunch of creature tokens. So therefore, you could really go crazy with this one. That being said, yeah, like low to the ground, like, what do you call them? Flying Men type strategies where you just have like Edric Spymaster Tress type decks where you just want to get a lot of low to the ground creatures in play, swing through, and then, yeah, get a lot of benefits. You get benefits from this as well. And obviously, getting 1 creature through can be great as well with that +1. But yeah, the big thing is literally just get this down probably in ultimate, maybe even right away. So there you go. I guess not right away, but, get it down. Go to combat. Swing. Get the counters on it. Ultimate. Yay! Moving on, Mossborn Hydra. A 0/0 elemental Hydra with trample that costs 3 mana in green. This creature enters with a counter on it. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, there'll be different counters on this creature. Oh my goodness. Okay, first of all, elemental decks. Yeah, we'll consider this, definitely, because elemental decks typically, if not always, have green in them. Hydra decks. Yes, also same thing, definitely, because you also have green in them. Therefore, landfall is incredibly easy to do. Counters decks, definitely want to consider this as well. Power matter strategies, might want to consider this one as well, because this one, again, it's exponential growth, literally doubling every single time. You get one counter on it to a tiny little baby 1-1, and then all of a sudden, landfall, 2-2, landfall, 4-4, landfall, 8-8, 16-16, 32-32, etc., etc. Much, much, much larger. Again, it can easily become a one-shot KO in absolutely no time. Like, just one turn for a Simic player can turn this into a one-shot KO. I mean, I said Simic, that's because that's usually what landfall typically concludes with, just like a green deck. You're like, oh, okay, cool. I play Evolving Wilds, I crack it, that's double-double. And then I play Explosive Vegetation type card, that's 2 more, double-double. That's already, I mean, what, 16 power, essentially? 2, 4, 8, 16? Yeah, okay. So that just doing that, just a simple green turn, and all of a sudden you're there. Obviously, it can be even larger than that. So yeah, all those types of strategies you might want to utilize this. It's just a really, really big threat. And again, it having trample is huge because we have seen these kinds of designs in the past where it's like, oh yeah, doubles and doubles, whatever, yeah, cool, cool, cool. Usually they don't have trample, so getting through that is quite great. Moving on, Crypt Feaster, a 3/4 zombie for 4 mana with Menace. Threshold, whenever this creature attacks, if there are 7 more cards in your graveyard, +2/+0 until end turn. Limited card, very limited card. I mean, it's nice that we see Threshold back, but very limited. Here we go, Homunculus Horde. My goodness. A 2/2 Homunculus for 4 mana in blue. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create tokens, copy this creature. That's pretty absurd. I mean, my goodness. Okay, so you are essentially saying, you know what? Let's make a Scoot Swarm in blue. And this is kind of what I was worried about, that we'd be getting a Scoot Swarm in blue, and we got a Scoot Swarm in blue. Now, is it as abusable as Scoot Swarm? Probably not, because, like, yeah, your threshold of getting that is higher. Drawing 2 cards in a turn is a higher threshold than just getting a land into play, typically, when it comes to many things, because you can just Evolving Wilds and crack it again. We talked about that. That being said, if you can get this going, oh my goodness. Again, exponential growth. If you've got a deck that's all about drawing cards, and you can draw cards here, there, and everywhere on anyone's turn, again, even if it's just like looter effects, essentially, like Merfolk Looter, draw a card, discard a card, or rummage effects, or whatever they are, even if you aren't going up on card advantage, the fact that you're just drawing cards, or like a Brainstorm, there you go, cool. Like, only draw 1 technically overall, right? But yeah, you still drew 3. You lost 2 of those cards. That doesn't matter to this. This just cares that you drew 2 cards in total, essentially, in a turn. Yeah, on every single turn, doubling up this army, it's absurd. Again, just like Scoot Swarm, where you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I get copies this, copies this, copy this, copy. And all of a sudden, your entire board is Homunculus Horde. So, yeah, you can very easily win the game with a deck that is set to do so with this. Again, unlike Scoot Swarm, you gotta wait turns to do so, but literally with each tripper on the table, again, you start with 1, then 2, 4, 8, 16. Good luck to your opponent stopping this once you get things going, because you're going to have a giant army of just obnoxious 2/2s. And yeah, I mean, literally anytime you draw 2 cards, you just double that up again. Absolutely crazy. And of course, you could just like win right away with it with things like, gosh, there's that one, like when a blue creature comes in to play, mill, sure, but also like if you have red, like impact tremors, etc., etc. Next up, Arcane Epiphany. 5 mana, draw 3 cards, instant speed, cost 1 less to cast if you control a wizard. Yeah, I mean, okay, so the typically going rate for like drawing 3 cards at instant speed is 5, I believe, because like Concentrate is 4, or Harmonize is 4, and those are sorcery speed for 4 mana. That being said, yeah, if you've got a deck that has a commander that is a wizard, or you have a wizard tribal deck, or just a decent amount of wizards in there, yeah, definitely consider this one, because it's, yeah, 4 mana, draw 3, instant speed. That's really nice. So yeah, like Harmonize, but better, obviously. And you're in blue, you got a lot of good options coming to drawing cards, but still, a solid choice. Next up, Archmage of Runes, a 3/6 giant wizard for 5 mana in blue. In sorcery spells you cast, cost 1 to cast. Whenever you cast it, in sorcery spell, draw a card. This is going to see an absurd amount of play. Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's like a combination of certain things out there. Like, this is like the low to the ground Goblin Electromancer type card, right? But it's not low to the ground, obviously. It's at 5 mana. It's like that in combination, though, with like Archmage of Emeritus. Is that the one where it's like, that's Magecraft, though? So this one doesn't count copy. So it's like a kind of like weird combination of those two, where it's like, okay, it has to be a higher mana value because you're getting both aspects of them, essentially, without the drawing for copying, but still literally just drawing on instant source spell cast is massive. It does have No offense, giant decks out there. Yeah, giant is not usually like a very, sought after creature type when it comes to tribal decks, but wizard most definitely is. So there you go. Yeah, in a spellslinger type strategy, you're going to get a lot of runway with this one. You're going to get a lot of value out of it. This is very, very good. Yeah, it's at 5 mana, thank goodness. They probably were like, it's at 4. Oh, okay, fine. We'll give it some extra toughness and put it at 5. Yeah, so 3/6, again, it's a good blocker too, which is pretty crazy for one of these types of cards versus like Archmage of Emeritus or Goblin Necromancer. Putting them together, making it a 3/6, is going to see a lot of play. Next up, speaking of which, you did not have to do this, Wizard. Who was asking for an exquisite blood creature? 5/5 Vampire Knight with Flying and Death Touch for 5 mana in black. Bloodthirsty Conqueror. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Who was asking for this? Anyone out there? Comment below if you're asking for this. Because I know definitely players out there that very much enjoy Exquisite Blood. The problem with Exquisite Blood is it literally combos with so many things. It's not funny. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's not funny. This plus Sanguine Bond, this plus Veto now, which is Sanguine Bond, this plus any of those creatures out there like, hey, whenever you gain life, each opponent loses life. Okay, but we've printed like 18 different versions of that. Dina as well. Yeah, basically, you are just going to either combo with this or literally try to convince the table when you put this down that you're not going to combo with this until you accidentally play something that combos with this. Like, that's literally what this does. Or Exquisite Blood just in general just is a super good card in Commander because you're playing a multiplayer format. Players are going to lose life here, there, and anywhere for any reason that you're not even accountable for, essentially, most of the time, too. Where it's like, oh, yeah, the player Shockland? Cool, I gained 2 life. Oh, that other player attacked that other player for 10? Cool, I gained 10 life. Yeah, this is a very, very good, going to be very, very sought-after card, and it is in 2 relevant creature types of Vampire in Knight, so it's going to see a ton of play. It's going to be incredibly expensive, and again, it combos with so many things. Yeah, we didn't need, I don't think, another, Exquisite Blood, another version of Exquisite Blood, so that those combos are just even more potent. Yeah, there we go. That's just my take on it, though. Again, your takes might differ, and that's okay, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thank you. Twin Flame Tyrant, if I could talk. 3/5 Dragon with Flying for 5 mana in red. If a source you control deal damage to an opponent or a permanent opponent controls, deals double that damage instead. Again, with like power creep these days, like, yes, I know we have other versions of this, like different kinds of cards, but also, gosh, was it Ingrass Marauders, which is at 7 essentially, and this is just more relevant creature type being a dragon, lower to the ground. Here you go, you double it. Oh my goodness. Again, all sources you have, not just creatures as well. And again, this is a 3/5, but obviously this just itself hits for 6 because it doubles itself as well. So any kind of a deck that wants to double up damage or triple up damage or whatever, if you've got a, group slug type strategy, of course. I mean, also just literally throws in a dragon deck, of course, because dragons are a tribe that get really, really, really powerful things. And of course, the Ur Dragon, this is just 4 mana. There you go. Yeah, this is very, 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 very good for a lot of decks out there that really want it, which many decks out there that either want dragons or damage doublers do. So there you go. Yeah, I got nothing else to say about that one. Oh my goodness. All right, Chandra, Flame Shaper. It's kind of hard to read the name because it's it's cool. When the Planeswalker like breaks the not fourth wall, but the design essentially. But that's hard to read sometimes. So there you go. Chandra, Flame Shaper, I believe that's what that would be. 6 starting loyalty. Chandra for 7 mana in red. +2, add 3 red mana. Exile top 3 cards your library. Choose 1 you may play a card this turn. Interesting. +1, create a token's copy of target creature control except that has haste in the beginning of the end step. Sacrifice this token. -4, 8 damage buys you choose among any different target creatures that are planeswalkers. It's a pretty specific planeswalker, and it's really high on mana value right there. Again, 7. 7 is a lot. I think 7 is the upper end of planeswalkers. I don't know if we've ever gone beyond 7. Like, what's Ugin? All right, anyways, really, 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 really expensive planeswalker to get out. I mean, if you've got like a prismatic bridge deck and you're like, oh, I just hit it off the top. Cool. Awesome. Free mana. Free things off the top of my library. Yay. Or like a mini board wipe kind of with that 8 damage. I think this one's going to see a lot of play. No, I think this is more like of a casual planeswalker versus the previous one we talked about. Next up, Tinybones is back. Bobble Burglar for 1/3 Skeleton Rogue, and I'll probably dive in on other episodes at some point trying to give like a little quick take on these when it comes to like cards that work well with them. There was a lot over the weekend that came out, okay? So, like, I will try to get to it at some point, though. I do have one that I'm going to talk about at the end of this episode, though, right? Skeleton Rogue for 2 mana in black. Whenever opponent discards a card, exile from their graveyard with a stash counter on it. During your turn, you may play cards you don't own with stash counters on them from exile. And mana of any type, cast those spells. For 4 mana in total, you tap and each opponent discards a card. Activate as a sorcery. Discard is something that some playgroups are okay with, some playgroups are not. So I do recommend that you do ask, again, if you don't playgroup first, before you end up building this deck, just ask, okay? Because discard, again, this is like more of a fair version of discard, I would say, than, say, Turgid, which is a unfair version of discard, unfair version of many things. But this one, you do have to actually pay for the cards, essentially, when you are going to be playing them. You don't just get things for free, like Turgid. This one, though, obviously heavily incentivizes you to literally just be like, hey, opponents, discard all of your cards. You've got no cards. They're my cards now, and I will build up mana to then play them. So there you go. I mean, and that's definitely a valid strategy again. But just realize that, again, if you do have a play group or those are your LGS, need to ask first, basically, on this, like, hey, is everyone okay with discard on this one? Because if not, you're probably going to get targeted super hard for playing this one and taken out early, and you might be confused as to why. And that's okay. Again, like, just ask out of time. It's okay for people to like different kinds of strategies and stuff like that. Just with this one, I know it's a cute little skeleton, but it's also with a strategy that can irk some players, so just please be careful with that, all right? Next up, Zul Ashur Lich Lord, a 2/2 zombie warlock for 2 mana in black ward, pay 2 life. Tap, you may cast target zombie creature card from your graveyard this turn. All right, that's pretty cool. So this one, I mean, the ward pay 2 life, like, ward is ward, whatever at this point, because they're just going to chuck it on a lot of things. They've slowed that a little bit. That being said, this one allowing to cast zombies out of your graveyard is quite spicy. I'm sure there's some weird combos with this. I mean, like, Intruder Alarm, I guess, could probably do something with this pretty easily. Regardless, this one, being able to play zombies out of your graveyard, yeah, zombie decks can, I mean, this obviously, as a commander, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to either tutor out certain zombies in my graveyard, like Entomb type effects, or also just straight up just mill myself for a ton. There you go. You can just do a zombie deck built around that. You can do a lot of exciting things with that. And again, trying to find ways to untap this. There's only so many in black, but there are certain ways that you could do it as well. So definitely keep that in mind. This is probably more of a card in the 99 of zombie decks because it is a zombie itself. It's low to the ground, and yeah, just getting certain zombies back out of your graveyard can be very, very, very beneficial to you. There you go. Next up, Arahbo is back and lost a color, apparently, no longer green. A 2/2 cat avatar for 3 mana in white. Other cats you control get +1/+1. Whenever Arahbo or another non-token cat enters, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Yeah, it's a very straightforward, very interesting commander when it comes to this. Like, it is just, hey, you know what? Cats. And your cats are like, okay, cool, cats. Okay, play cats. They make cats. Cool. All right. Oh, by the way, the cats are slightly larger. So this is kind of like Ridden Seri kind of ish, but instead of just being like dogs and cats and they make separate things, this is like, no, cats, 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 cats. Okay? Yeah, obviously, in mono white, you've got access to blink spells in the way that I'd be building around this. There's probably like a lot of low to the ground kitties, and what's that one that's is it white main line or whatever? You can keep like casting, recasting, casting, recasting, casting, recasting again, because it can just keep bouncing itself. It's like that, plus like cost reducers, but also of course just like get a bunch of low to the ground cats out, probably ones that have maybe some ETBs as well, and then just cast like massive blink spells like Eerie Interlude and be like, oh, okay, they all left. Oh, they're back, and they made more cats. Cool. And then, of course, a bunch of Anthem effects as well could be very effective with this commander. So, yeah, that's a very effective cat commander. Again, being very low to the ground. Quite interesting. Next up, Niv-Mizzet Visionary. A 5/5 dragon wizard with flying for 6 mana. And is it? You have maximum hand size. No maximum hand size, I should say. Whenever a source you control deals non-combination to an opponent, you draw that many cards. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I mean, not having a maximum hand size is nice on your commander when it's like really generating you a bunch of value, kind of like Nezahal does-ish, where it's like, yeah, I don't have to worry about my hand ever. I'm just like, oh, Nezahal's in play, cool. All right, my hand is my hand. It's going to keep growing, and this is basically that. This, though, obviously is in a different version where it's like, okay, I'm not benefiting from my opponents doing things. I'm benefiting from me smacking my opponents with non-combat damage. So, in a lot of different ways, obviously, I mean, this one is, let's see, I should say, like, it's like Group Slug, but in Izzet, which you typically don't get. Usually it's like Group Slug in Rakdos in a way, so you are missing certain things like Underworld Dreams would be very good with this one. That being said, you don't have that. You do have ways to punish opponents, obviously with that red though, like, gosh, what, Sulfuric Vortex type cards, where it's just like, oh, okay, every single turn, it's gonna hit everyone for this amount of damage. Those kind of cards are huge because, again, it's just doing it again. Draw that many cards. It's not like each instance of damage, it's the amount of damage, so that can be a ton. And literally this just turns in like garbage cards in Commander. Not garbage, I shouldn't say, but cards that are like burn spells. Burn spells that are like single target are typically very bad in Commander because they're just not as good as other cards. You're playing a multiplayer format versus a one-on-one. That being said, Lightning Bolt is just Ancestral Recall with this now because you're like, oh, okay, cool. All right, I hit you for 3 in the face. Oh, cool, I drew 3 cards, yay! Oh, wait, no, remember, sorry, I had a damage doubler in play. It's 6, I just drew 6 cards for 1 mana, yay, and I get to keep them all. So, yeah, this is a commander where you can definitely make use out of cards that maybe don't see a lot of play if you are going that burn route. The more effective route is probably, though, just like repeat Group Slug punishing effects that literally are like, hey, every single turn you take 2, every single turn I draw 2. Literally, I think with was it Sulfuric Vortex, that's 2 damage each turn. Literally, the one trip around the table, right? That is, you draw 6 cards just for having that in play with this commander. And you get to keep them all. So yeah, I do think that the way that you'd probably go most likely is like, hey, yeah, just really repeatable damage dealing effects, and then also damage doublers, and then ways to take advantage of having a massive hand size as well. So yeah, you can do a lot of crazy things with this. Now, I do have one more commander I need to talk about, but this one, we're going to jump over to the MTG Goldfish translated version of Kykar, who brings the win. Thank you, MTG Goldfish, for, translating this card. A 3/4 Bird Wizard for 4 mana and Azorius flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, choose 1. Exile the target creature you control, return to the battlefield under someone's control at the beginning of next end step. Create a 1/1 white sphere control with flying. This is quite powerful. So this is, again, it's interesting. Like with Foundations, we are apparently getting commanders that like lose a color, which is interesting. I mean, Niv-Mizzet lost 3 colors, but it was originally Izzet, but then now Kykar, again, was Jeskai, now Azorius. So this one is interesting where I'm very glad they said at the beginning of the next end step, because if this was just like bring the creature back immediately, be like, oh my, that probably could be broken in so many ways so quickly. Yeah, this one though is powerful, is very, very powerful, but slight limitation on it. That being said, still very, very, very good and works with a lot of great cards. And actually, oh my goodness. Because it doesn't say non-creature spell from your hand, which I know is specific, there's certain crazy things that you can do with that, and I will go through some cards that work really well with this one. There's a lot of really powerful things that you can do with this one. I mean, obviously, using and abusing ETBs is probably your main goal with this one for the most part. You could go in a couple of directions, though, obviously, but yeah, just being like, okay, I cast any instant, and it turns into a blink effect, which obviously makes it really, really difficult for your opponents to deal with any of your other creatures, because again, it does say exile another target creature. You can't blink this one, which is good. That being said, if you cast a blink spell to blink this one, you can also blink another one. There you go. So this can be a commander that can be pretty hard to deal with, or it makes its army really hard to deal with as well. You can get a lot of value out of all those ETBs you're going to be using and abusing. And also, if you want to make a Spirit Token army, you can. And you could just literally go all Anthems, which again are, all Anthems that are non-creature spells, like, artifacts or enchantments. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, okay, cool, I've got +10/+10 for all my creatures, and I'm making a bunch of spirits, and you all lose. So there's a lot of directions you can go with this one. Let's talk about some cards to consider for this commander. And again, the other Kykar was pretty popular, still is pretty popular. This one I do think will be popular as well. Players like, just like free value for casting non-creature spells. So there you go. Cloud Shift, obviously a very good card, very simple. Instant for a single white mana. Blink a creature control, turn the battlefield under control. Ephemerate is a better version of this, a little bit more expensive though, obviously. That being said, again, literally, if you have just a blink spell, it becomes a double blink spell for you. So definitely keep that in mind when it comes to using and abusing ETBs. Next up, Monastery Mentor. I can't believe this is only $2.48 now. This used to be so expensive before the reprint. 2/2, Human Monk with Prowess for 3 mana. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white monk creature with Prowess. Yeah, Prowess is obviously very good at this because you're going to be incentivized to cast a lot of non-creature spells, so there you go. You can pump your creatures, but obviously just literally going super wide with this is super nice with this, so definitely keep that in mind. Archmage Emeritus, I referenced this earlier for another one. 2/2, Human Wizard for 4 mana in blue. Magecraft. I think I said Archmage of Emeritus, my bad. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. So yeah, literally just casting non-creature spells. Get some more draw. Obviously, utilize that new giant wizard as well, too, in the same kind of a deck. Get a lot of value out of something like this. Displacer Kitten. This is the first card I thought about when I saw Kykar. I mean, other than the original Kykar. A 2/2 Cat Beast for 4 mana in blue. Whenever you cast it on a creature spell, eggs up to 1 target non-land permanent you control. They return that card to the battlefield under someone's control. This lets you use and abuse even more things. Obviously, this is crazy powerful because it lets you just blink things and they come back right away, so you can use and abuse their effects right away. Versus Kykar's like, you gotta wait for that. You gotta wait for that. That's okay. Obviously, alongside in tandem now, you get like a 1 immediate blink and 1 long blink. Like, people have said like flicker versus blink. They mean different things, but like the cards are very like used. Like a delayed blink effect, I think. Let's just go with that, okay? This one's immediate. Kykar is delayed. Jace's Sanctum. Enchantment for 4 mana in blue. In sorcery spells you cast cost 1 to cast. Cast in sorcery spell, scry 1. Now, obviously, you can lean in a bunch of different directions with this. It is non-creature spells for your commander. You could go enchantments. You could go artifacts. You could go instant sorceries. You could do whatever you want to do with it outside of creatures. And so, if you want to focus more on instant sorceries, which I think many people will, when it comes to like spell slinging, usually that's the direction people go. Definitely consider a card like this where it's like, hey, yeah, your spells cost less to cast, so you can use and abuse them more often. And also, you get to scry a lot with this as well, so some extra card selection for you too. Speaking of which, Niblis of Frost, a 3/3 flying with prowess. Again, I already talked about why prowess is good. Whenever you cast it, instant sorcery spell, tap target creature bug controls, does untap target controls X on tap step. This can be incredibly annoying if you get things going and you get a lot of value, like a value engine going. You're like, okay, tap that down. Okay, tap that down. Okay, tap that down. Especially if you have like an ETB creature that comes into play and you're like, oh yeah, get that instant sorcery back from your graveyard. And you keep blinking them again and again and again. And you just keep tapping down your opponent's best creatures and they keep not untapping. You can do some pretty good things with something like this. Preston the Vanisher. Oh my goodness. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't cast, blink effect, create a token's copy of that creature except a 0/1 white illusion. This basically doubles up your ETBs. I mean, in a way, in a weird way, and also gives you more creatures too. But yes, being able to essentially just be like, okay, I blink that creature, comes back into play, and I get another copy of that creature. Cool. If it was like a Mold Drifter, great. You get to draw 4 cards down instead of 2. Obviously, Panharmonicon, any kind of a double up your ETBs, Elish Norn, etc., etc., etc. You're gonna want to utilize cards like that if you got the budget for them and if that's the kind of direction you want to go. Next up, Renar the Ever-Watchful, although Elish Norn, you might get some hate from the table because it's a very salty card. Renar the Ever-Watchful, a 2/3 Spirit Warrior with Flying Vigilance for 4 mana and Azorius. The first card you cast Foretell each turn costs 0 to Foretell. That's nice if you have Foretell cards in the deck, obviously. But whenever you exile one of our cards from your hand and or permanents from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit creature with flying. Basically, literally every single time that you choose to exile one of your creatures, now instead you are making a spirit with this now too. So it's just like you don't have to then pick like I'll make a spirit. You're like, no, I'll just blink my creature and then I'll make a spirit still. So there you go. Next up, Tauren Sky Summoner. Obviously, any of the, cast instant source spell, make a 2/2, make a 1/1 flyer, whatever it's going to be. There's a lot of different options for that. Making creatures when you're casting things, definitely consider this. And again, if you're going the direction specifically of, non-creature spells, then maybe Shark Typhoon, which is now, it's budget friendly somehow. I love it. 89 cents. Enchantment for 6 mana in blue. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying, where X that spell's mana value. You can cycle it away if you need to. Make a, one of those essentially for that. But yeah, being able to just say, okay, now every single time I cast a non-creature spell, I get to blink something with my commander. I get to draw a card for each of your commanders. I get to, Shark Typhoon, make a token. Once you keep building up like your value on the board, it's going to be absurd every single time you cast any non-creature spell, especially again when you have massive blink effects like Peregrine Drake. Oh my goodness. 2/3 Drake with flying for 5 mana, enters untap 5 lands. Literally, if you just say like, okay, you know what? I'll cast a non-creature spell. All right, blinks my Peregrine Drake, and all of a sudden, all right, end of the turn, untap 5 lands. Awesome, cool, all right. Next turn, on your turn, I've got an instant to cast. Cool, I do that. I blink my Peregrine Drake. Comes back into play, untap 5 more lands. You can generate so much mana throughout the game simply by just blinking this again and again and again. Cloud of Fairies at a lower level. I think it's, 2 mana for 2 untaps? But yeah, keep that in mind. Sun Titan, another great ETB to use in views, of course. 6/6 Giant Vigilance for 6 mana in white. Enters or attacks. May return target permanent with converted mana cost 3 less your graveyard to the battlefield. Nice! Again, lots of value to be had from that. Maybe even getting back some other creatures that have some other ETBs. Lord of Change, a great card with a great ETB. 6/6 Flying Ward 3 Demon for 7 mana in blue. Enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. Yeah, ETB, draw 3. That is huge. I mean, again, literally any single time you cast a non-creature spell, you are drawing 3 cards. I mean, 1 time per turn. Each turn potentially if you're cast against on your opponent's turns as well. Finally, though, the big card to consider with this one. Oh my goodness. Just 15 cents for this gem, Diluvian Primordial. 5/5 Avatar with flying for 7 mana in blue. Enters the battlefield for each opponent. You may cast up to 1 target in-source card from that player's graveyard that paying its mana cost of a spell cast this way, put a graveyard exile instead. Oh my goodness. So literally, again, and that's kind of why I mentioned, like, it doesn't say, like, from your hand. It's like anywhere. Okay, there you go. Cool. So basically, again, you play this. It has you cast up to 3 spells, essentially. Let's say you get to cast 3. Cool. All right. Blink this and blink 2 other creatures. Or, you know, blink this, make 2 spirits, whatever you want to do. Comes back at the end step. You do it again. Comes back at the next end step. You do it again. Comes back at the next end step. You do it again. Literally until your opponents run out of instants and sorceries in their graveyard, you just get to keep doing this. And then when they play more of those, or you mill them, or they mill themselves, or whatever it's going to be, you do more, and then more, and then more. Yeah, once you get that set up, this is like Golden Pig level for this kind of a commander. A lot of fun to be had with Kykar, of course. And again, if you are interested in any of these cards, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below, and stay tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. As always, comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.